Hello, hello. Obi from ApeSwap here.
Hey Obi, welcome. Mary here from Crypto Miners. How are you?
Very good. How are you, Mary?
I'm great. It's been a long day for me so far, but now we have the best part of it yet to come, I think.
Absolutely. I'm very excited. Should have my colleague Crimson joining as well. So can't wait
Yeah,
to
we're
share
waiting for him.
share everything about ApeSwap.
That's great. And we are waiting also for Maurice from Caesar's Call. He's going to be with us here today, I think.
Got a full house.
Yeah, full house and lots of listeners. Do you have a big community who are coming over as well to listen?
Yes, we
Obi.
we should have a fair amount of people coming to join us. So we're looking forward. All the admins were talking about it earlier today in our admin chat, and some of the community members in Telegram. We're excited. It's been a little while
Nice.
since we've done an AMA. We used to do bi-weekly updates, like DAO updates, where we just have sort of an open forum, Twitter Spaces, and we've moved that to monthly, and I think people are eager to get an update because it's been over a month since we've done our last one due to the holidays.
Yeah, of course. Cool. Yeah, I'm excited too to learn more about ApeSwap. I don't know so much yet, but I hope to be well educated once this hour is over.
That's the goal. Yeah, happy to share.
Or it might actually be longer than an hour if I know us.
Hey, that's
I
usually a
don't know if
good
you have
sign.
time that much. You'll have to tell me
Hey, we'll
if you
go
have
as
to
long as
leave,
it
but
takes.
okay, all night then it is. No. So we have ApeSwap. I mean, is this the ApeSwap account, the lead
Yes, that's the
one?
ApeSwap
Gonna.
official account. So
Mm,
should
let's bring them up here too then.
sure, sounds great. And it looks like Crimson's in the crowd, who's the other speaker today. I see him.
Crimson, are you here? Raise your hand. I can unmute you. There's already so many in here, so I can't find you if you don't raise your hand. Let's see. There he is. Hi.
There we go. Hey, Crimson. What's up, sir?
Hey, Crimson. Welcome
Thank you.
to Crypto Miners.
Great to be here.
Nice to have. Yeah, nice to have you here. Let's see if we have Maurice coming also. I don't know. Maybe he's delayed for some reason, or we will start without him, I guess, if he doesn't come soon. So, how was your day? Or it hasn't started yet,
Yeah.
your day?
For me at least, it's just getting started. I'm in UTC -5, so I'm still in the
Ah,
morning over
okay.
here.
Is that New York
It's
area?
Chicago time zone.
Oh, Chicago. Okay, cool. Where are you, Crimson?
I'm in the New York time zone, and yeah, it's 11 here. So I've gotten a little bit of my day started, but warmed up enough for an AMA, hopefully.
There you go.
Do you have your coffee already?
Yeah, having it currently.
That's good. All right. I don't get any response from Maurice. I don't really know if he's coming now or maybe later. We'll see. He's welcome whenever he comes. So why don't we start a little bit? So I will welcome everyone who comes in here now to Crypto Miners to listen to this session we have with ApeSwap. And it's going to be real interesting and a pleasure to host you guys. My name is Mary, and also a reminder that anything we talk about in here is for educational purpose only and should not be taken as financial advice. So do your own research, guys, as always. And yes, we have Obi and Crimson here from ApeSwap. Obi, you are the founder of ApeSwap, is that correct? And Crimson, you're head of strategy.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we actually have five founders. We have a founding five squad. So I'm one of the five, but yes, helped get ApeSwap off the ground.
Okay. So why don't you tell us briefly about yourself a little bit so we know who we are talking to first, and then we
Yeah,
dive
happy to
into
elaborate.
ApeSwap. Yeah.
Yeah, my primary role at ApeSwap's DAO is the product lead. So I really work with all across our business verticals, figuring out what users want, and then working with the development team to build that out and make sure it's to spec and satisfactory for all of our users. So it's a really enjoyable role and get to touch nearly every aspect of the DAO. In terms of my history, I've been in crypto since 2016 and started as a professional working for a blockchain consultancy in 2017. So, which feels like ages ago, thinking about how fast crypto turns and how fast we've come. But yeah, that's my TLDR background.
Great. And what about you, Crimson?
Yeah, so I've been on the team at ApeSwap for I believe around 16 months. I have a background in finance. I initially was entered crypto in like 2017, but I kind of bought some stuff. I don't know if I would say I was officially like in crypto until maybe 2020. And on ApeSwap, I'm on the biz dev team. I am director of strategy, so basically looking on how to build our ecosystem, how to make connections, and just kind of working towards growing our partnerships and getting more projects involved and kind of seeing where we can go with this thing.
Great. And you started 2021 last year, right? No, 2 years ago.
Yeah, no, I started on ApeSwap 2021, but I mean, I got into DeFi a bit before that. I guess is a bit better.
And I mean, ApeSwap did start also or launched then anyway. Maybe you started before, obviously, to work with the project or the founders anyway. Right,
yeah, Obi's been in it from day one.
ApeSwap launched in February 2021, so we are like 3 weeks away from our second birthday.
Oh, nice. So you're going to celebrate heavy.
Of course. Being a DeFi protocol that's been standing for 2 years is something we're definitely proud of.
Nice. All right. So how did it start then? And you said you were 5 founders, I think. How did it
so
like?
we
How
started.
Yeah.
We started as a group of degens, and we were all in various degen chats looking at different protocols and opportunities in the crypto and DeFi space. And the origin of ApeSwap was actually a lot of our team getting rugged on a protocol. I don't know if many members in the audience remember, but it was called Ice Cream Swap. They had an exploit in their code, and a lot of us lost funds. And we kind of had this realization where through all of our degening and exploring the DeFi landscape, we built a pretty specific skill set to actually launch and build a DeFi protocol ourselves. So after we kind of hit a wall with our rug there, we decided, hey, we can do something better than what the industry is currently putting out. Let's go ahead and launch ApeSwap. And we launched it as an experiment, and it gained massive traction in the first few weeks. And soon after, it was our full-time gig, and we've been building it over the last 2 years ever since.
Nice. So it started as a test, you said, just to try.
Yeah,
it was
an experimental protocol initially. We were basically a cut and dry fork of PancakeSwap, who was and still is one of the most prominent dexes on BSC. And we slowly evolved our product suite away from PancakeSwap to the point where we are really our own protocol, and not a single screen on our interface is a fork, and very few smart contracts are a fork. We have our own services, we have our own protocols. We've really started to differentiate ourselves and grow out of that original origin.
Right. So you started as a copy to PancakeSwap, kind of, just because it was like just a test, and now you're by yourself with your own interface now.
That's cool. More or less. Yeah.
All right. So what kind of problem did you see then that you could do better? And do you do it better now? And yeah, how did you evolve?
I'm a big fan of our bills product, and I think that's really where we found the largest product market fit. Crimson actually leads a lot of the discussions and client onboarding for that, so you might be best suited to answer that one.
Thank you, Obes. Yeah, so I mean, so what we've been focusing on is kind of like helping with sustainability for ourselves and our partners. I mean, go back a year, right? We were doing a ton of different farming and staking programs. And I mean, what we started to realize was that we were essentially renting liquidity from our users through farming because, you say, I'll pay you out these tokens if you buy the LPs and stake them in our farms. And so we were trying to figure out a way to kind of capture some of those LPs to keep instead of renting them. And so that's how we ended up with this treasury bills product. And it's essentially a bond type product that allows you to get a return for all of your tokens. Because what we realized is, everyone has plenty of their own native token, right? Most treasuries are 90+% native tokens. The issue is, it's very expensive to create those LPs. So a lot of people use their tokens to incentivize those pairs. It's just that if you're doing that through farming, ultimately you're renting those LPs from the user, which in the short term can be beneficial. Obviously, like a rental can be helpful. But in the long term, if the user holds those LPs, first of all, they're taking in permanent loss on those, and it's a volatile asset. So what we realized was when these farms end, a lot of those, mercenary miners are dumping those tokens. So essentially, we moved to a product called Treasury Bills. And basically how it works is instead of kind of having the users lend you those LPs, the user is going to create those LPs and use them to purchase a Treasury bill. So they're using that LP as a single asset with a value. Now they're purchasing a Treasury bill. The second they purchase that Treasury bill, those LPs are transferring from the user's tokens to the project's token. And so now you're building up protocol on liquidity. And the user still gets a benefit here because they're getting those tokens at a small discount, and they don't have to deal with impermanent loss. So users can get a great return on these treasury bills by investing in the project with LPs and getting a return on those tokens. Let's say you're getting a 10% return on your tokens on a 30-day treasury bill. Multiply that times 12, you're getting a really great return. But it's much more sustainable for the project because they're directly getting paid out for all the tokens that they're emitting. So it slows down your inflation and builds up your liquidity at the same time. So there's a more stable trading environment. And that's essentially where we've been seeing the most success in this market, because what we realized is, farming has essentially it's a zero-sum game. You don't really get a return on those tokens. And even in this bear market, in the past 10 months, we've been seeing an average of an 87% return on our treasury bills through around 30 projects that have gone through. So, yeah, I guess, long answer to maybe a shorter question, but that's kind of what we've been focusing majorly on the team.
That's great. So you have so many utilities now, or so many things going on ApeSwap. It started out as a swap, and now you have extended with so many other things. Should we go through a couple of the other ones that you want to talk about? That's good to know. How can I use ApeSwap?
Yeah, happy to elaborate on our service offerings and the breadth of them. As you pointed out, we started as just a cut and dry swap, and we've evolved into what we call a DeFi hub. We basically have every service that a user could potentially want in terms of DeFi interaction. So we still have the swap, and it's one of our most prominent products. Users can swap on BNB chain, Ethereum, Polygon, and Telos, as well as add liquidity and take that liquidity and stake it in our various farm offerings, similar to that rental side of things that Crimson was mentioning. We've expanded our swap to not only be a straightforward Uni V2 fork or pancake fork, but we have limit orders on BNB chain And we also have a pro trading platform where people can go in and get that classic high frequency trader look with all the charts and bells and whistles, and interact with a hybrid exchange order book through our partner Apollo X. So from the swap side of things, we have lots of offerings and allow users to interact in pretty much however they please. From a staking side of things, we have a lot of yield generation opportunities. We have, like I mentioned earlier, the ability to take your LPs and stake them in various farms. You can earn banana in most of the farms, but we also have an offering called Jungle Farms where you can earn partner tokens. Another service in which you can earn partner tokens are our staking pools. So you can take banana, which is our main token, or a derivative of banana called golden banana / gnana, and stake those to earn partner tokens as well. We also have treasury bills and occasionally launch IAOs, initial ape offerings, which are basically the initial sale for a project that is going live. And then we have our lending market, which we support 8 of the most prominent assets on BNB chain, where users can lend those assets, collateralize positions, and then borrow other assets. And then finally, we have a suite of NFT projects, namely ApeSwap NFT, which hosts our non-fungible apes and our non-fungible bananas collection. So there's a way to get involved for nearly everybody in DeFi, no matter what their interests or motives are.
That's a lot, yeah. So you have to tell me about the name. I mean, ApeSwap and banana and an initial
Sure.
ape offer, or what did you say?
Yeah, we've apeified nearly everything. It's definitely become part of our brand. So similar to our origin story, we were actually surprised that nobody in DeFi had taken the name ApeSwap when we first launched, and we thought it was just a clever name because of a lot of the Wall Street bets people referring to themselves as apes, or even people in crypto saying they're aping into things. So we sort of borrowed.
This. But you're
Yeah.
not connected with Bored Ape Club.
We are not. No, not at this time. But we do have the ape coin that they provide on our decks. So if people want to swap that particular token, we can offer that at least. But yeah, it just kind of stuck, the ApeSwap and the banana token, and our whole community kind of rallied around it. And as you can see, everybody on our team is some sort of ape. So it's
I see Crimson looks like an ape.
Exactly. We have about 30 core team apes and 20 more admin apes all over the world. And then obviously a community of tens of thousands of apes.
And speaking of apes, we have another ape joining us now. Caesar's call. Maurice is here. Hi, Maurice.
Hey,
welcome.
So sorry about that, guys. Was up till about 7:30 in the morning last night trying to do some research and stuff, and I've been sick for the last few days. So yeah, I kind of got the best of both worlds and crashed. But I'm really excited for this one. Sorry to jump in. I'll kind of jump in and kind of get a feel for the conversation. But yeah, I'm really excited. I've been following you guys since you came onto the space. I mean, community-wise, I think you've been one of the most impressive new swaps or dexes to come into the market. And again, I always I'm a numbers guy, and I think numbers don't lie. And I'll say that the volume that you guys have seen and the way you've built up your community are the 2 factors that I would look at, because they're the 2 big things that I always ask upcoming dexes or swaps in the space is how do you take volume away from the current players? And I mean, you guys must have some magic formula over there, so I'm really excited to jump into this one.
Yeah, welcome, Maurice. And did you hear that they started out as just a test, and now they're big?
Yeah, no, I know. I've been following this one for quite some time. I mean, they launched, only last year. So if you actually think about how much volume they've put through their services, it's quite impressive, right? So again, I don't want to take away from the flow of the conversation. I'll kind of just sit back and see where you guys are going, and then I'll jump in with some questions if that works, Mary.
That's fine. That's perfect. So, Obi, we were talking about the name. So another question for me about the name is, you call yourself now ApeSwap, and it started out as a swap, but now it's so much more. Have you considered changing the name to something else or something more? I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
different.
that's such a good question. We've definitely considered it, but I mean, even if you look at PancakeSwap or Uniswap, a lot of these protocols, or we've even seen farms that don't even have a swap but use the name swap. For some
Really?
reason, our industry, yeah, it's very odd. Our industry is kind of centered around the
That's odd,
swap
yeah.
vernacular, referring to like DeFi protocol. So far, it's worked pretty well for us, but we have thought about potentially spinning out certain brands for certain products, like the treasury bills that Crimson was talking about, so we could more accurately target a particular audience or particular set of partners. But right now, the ApeSwap name is still working pretty well for us, so no plans on changing in the near future.
Okay. And obviously then your coin was called Banana.
Yes, every ape needs a banana, so it just just kind of fit.
But the other one I don't get. What is Gnana? What is
Yeah,
that?
so G-Nana or golden banana
Oh,
is
golden banana.
yes, it's a derivative of our core banana token. So basically how it works is a user can take their banana and they can convert it to G-Nana, and it serves as a burning mechanic. To convert it to G-Nana, you need to burn 30% of the banana you're using to convert. So let's say you have 100 banana, you would convert it to 70 G-Nana. And then why would somebody want to burn 30% of their banana? Well, it needs to be pretty appealing. And that's sort of why we call it golden banana, because it unlocks a suite of different capabilities that users wouldn't have on the other side of the equation. So the first thing, and one thing we're really honing in on, is the ability to vote in governance proposals. So if you're committed enough to ApeSwap to join this collective burn of burning 30% of your banana to acquire G-Nana, you now can use that G-Nana for voting rights within the DAO. So we have a snapshot governance board, and the token that is used for voting power is the G-Nana token. The second use case is the ability to stake in exclusive staking pools. If you go to apeswap.finance/pools, you'll notice most of our staking pools are actually for the G-Nana token instead of our core banana token. So it gives you the ability and have a broader range to stake in more pools and exclusive offerings. And then the third approach is the ability to participate in these initial ape offerings. So on all of our initial ape offerings, we have a raise that is conducted in BNB, and we also have a raise that is conducted in G-Nana. So a lot of times the BNB raise sells out much more quickly, and we use an overflow model, so you usually get a smaller portion if you contribute to the raise in BNB, but you can get a larger portion, generally speaking, if you contribute with the G-Nana token. And then the last potentially appealing thing that G-Nana offers is you can passively farm with it. So every transaction of G-Nana requires a 2% reflect fee. And if you have G-Nana just sitting in your wallet, you get a proportional amount of that reflect fee versus the total amount of G-Nana that you hold. So we call it passive farming. You can have G-Nana just sit in your wallet and it accumulates over time. So those four reasons are the main drivers for why people might want to convert their banana into golden banana.
Nice. But this, how many G-Nanas or golden bananas do you need then to participate in all these things that you listed?
So we basically map, it's really up to the user and the funds accessible to the user. We map golden banana to be the banana dollar value equivalent that you converted in. So we take golden banana and multiply it 1.38 times the dollar value of banana. So let's say you have $100 worth of banana and you convert it to G-Nana. We would value that, even though you burnt 30%, we would value that GNANA at $100 as well. So whether you want to stake $5 or you want to stake $50,000 is really up to each individual users. There's no minimum or maximum threshold to the level of participation somebody can have with GNANA.
Okay, and something that I always wonder that is pretty new and hasn't really been explored that much yet, and people seem to like it, but I'm not sure we have tried it out enough to know if it's good or bad or how it works really, is the DAO, as you spoke about, or the governance votes, maybe you call it then. How does it work for you guys so far? Has it worked well, and what kind of questions did you raise and vote for?
That's a fantastic question. I think governance is a pain point, and it really hasn't been solved by the entire DeFi landscape at large. And this issue comes up in lots of different places, whether it's our particular governance or whether it's some of these venture capitalist-backed projects who the VCs have 90% of the voting power because of the tokens that they hold. I think ApeSwap basically passes anything that is of monumental consequence to our DAO. So, for instance, one of the most contentious proposals that we voted upon was to have a hard cap for our banana token, because we are an inflationary token, or I should say we're an inflationary token, and now we've limited the amount of tokens that can ever go out into circulation for banana. We also vote on things like where allocations of rewards go. So amongst all those services I mentioned, we need to incentivize certain people to do things, whether it's liquidity on the DEX or whether it's tokens in the lending market or whether it's something else. And a lot of times we'll pass or propose ideas on how we can best allocate those rewards that are most beneficial to the DAO. And other things in between is really what we focus on. Anything that people would want to have the ability to have a say on, or anything that has consequence to individual users in the DAO, we put through governance.
That's great. And also you said that you have then exclusive access to this initial ape offerings, right? That's what you call them. It's like an ICO, but you call it it's EIO.
Exactly. Yes, you got it. Yeah.
The English letters.
When we have those raises, they're exactly like ICOs, more or less. It's the first time any particular token is being offered. Crimson actually heads up a lot of the negotiations and bringing those IAOs to the table, so he might be best suited to answer that one.
Cool. So Crimson, how many of them did you have so far, or are there any very famous that we know of?
Yeah, I believe in total we've had 14 IAOs.
Mm-hmm.
We've had, honestly, we've had a ton of success with pretty much all of our IAOs. That's been one of our biggest service offerings. This year was a bit slow on them because, as we've all seen in the market, everything's been a bit slow. So we've kind of shied away a little bit from launching a ton of tokens. But through our treasury bills, we're going to be able to launch tokens again very soon. But yeah, no, it's been a ton of successful projects going through our treasury or our IOs. Give me 1 second. I'll pull up the list. Oh, one more thing I wanted to call out when it comes to, can you guys hear me still?
Yeah, you just had a little bit of a dropout there.
Oh, my bad. One more thing I wanted to call out when it comes to our product suite is one of my favorite products that we have that I don't think Obi got into, but our smart router and our bonus router are two of my favorite features. And they kind of allow for users on our networks to trade any token that's on the network, as well as get some ARB opportunities. Maybe Obes could get a little bit better detail on that while I pull up the IAO list.
Yeah, that's a good point, Crimson, and a really important fact that I left out. So our DEX, like I said, has evolved from just a cut and dry swap to a smart router, essentially, at the end of the day. And what that means is across the 4 blockchains that ApeSwap is on, across Ethereum, Polygon, Telos, and BNB chain, we allow users through our user interface to tap into any token across those 4 chains that they would like to swap in some way. So if ApeSwap doesn't have liquidity for some random token that might be on PancakeSwap or QuickSwap, they can still use our front end to get those tokens through those liquidity pools. So ApeSwap is really trying to become this one-stop shop for being able to swap any asset on any chain that we currently offer. And then, as Crimson mentioned, we extend this a little bit because a lot of times, and I'm sure everybody's heard of this in one capacity or another, but there's this whole concept of MEV, or front running, or minor extractable value, where people are monitoring the blockchain and seeing what transactions people are putting through. And if one of those transactions can be front run, can have some sort of financial advantage for somebody else, somebody might send a transaction in more quickly and give you a worse trading rate. Let's say you're swapping 2 tokens and you have a 3% slippage. Somebody might try to take advantage of that 3% slippage and take that money to themselves. We have some technology that constantly monitors for those sorts of opportunities. So if you're about to make a trade that would result in some sort of arbitrage opportunity, what ApeSwap will do is we'll ask you, hey, would you like to make this a bonus route? Would you like to be the one that takes advantage of this trade that's ongoing? And if so, we'll give you a portion of the kickback fee. We'll give you a portion of what would be taken advantage of by somebody else. So we're able to, 1, through our DEX, tap into any liquidity pool on any of the chains, and 2, give people kickback opportunities that don't generally exist on other DEXs.
Great. How's it going with the initial offers there, Crimson?
No, I got them all pulled up. Thank you, Obi. So go back. Some of like the big ones that people would have heard of would probably be Dragonary was huge. Obviously, that was a GameFi game. Nifty Network was another great one. 99 Stars, Trust NFT, and the most recent one was Animal Concerts, which is a huge project that has some backing by some really huge influencers as well. So I definitely recommend kind of going to this page and skimming through all these different sales, and you can kind of see what success we've had, how much of these have been sold and whatnot as well, and see if you can maybe hop into those projects.
Nice. And you said earlier that you can choose to participate with the Banana token, the golden banana token, or BNB in those
Exactly.
those offers, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
so we do the raise in 50% BNB and 50% GNANA. All the GNANA gets burnt afterwards. But essentially, if you're a holder of GNANA, because there's obviously less holders of GNANA than BNB, you have an opportunity to get a bigger allocation of those tokens. And so you can, lock in a bigger percentage of tokens because it is a, oversale. So essentially, if we sell out 100 million and there's only $1 million worth of token, you get the appropriate percentage of those tokens. The GNANA side is likely to sell out a much smaller proportion of those tokens. And so you are able to claw back a bigger amount of those personally.
Wow, that's interesting. Did you know about that, Maurice? I'm gonna let you in now if you're ready.
Yeah, no. So there's a couple different that part specifically. I didn't get as deep into the GNANA side of things as I did onto the banana side, but in terms of the actual kind of core currency or token that you guys have within the ecosystem there. Now, are there various outside of burning that 30% to unlock the premium product suites that you mentioned earlier? Are there thresholds from the banana token that you guys have in place within the ecosystem that unlock additional features, or are those additional product suites or feature suites specific only to GNANA holders?
It's a mix. So for our staking offerings, we have pools where users can stake just GNANA or just banana, but we typically offer more G-Nano pools to incentivize people to get deeper into our ecosystem and burn banana to help with our tokenomic surface. From an IAO perspective, that is purely G-Nano. Nobody can use banana to interact with that. Same with governance. If you hold banana, you don't have voting rights in the DAO, but if you hold G-Nano, you do have voting rights in the DAO. So it's a little bit of a blend.
Okay, and there, you guys were talking, Mary and yourself, earlier, just with regards to the hard cap, and that's something that I really wanted to focus on, because obviously it's for anybody who's on the BNB side of things in your banana farms, your banana maximizers, and then your banana to banana pools. I think those are the three that are affected by the vote. So I wanted to ask, like, you said a very important part with regards to the DAO about how it hasn't really properly been kind of worked out. And, we've seen a lot of interest with DAOs when they first came into the space with, some of the bigger ones, but they have not really lasted or sustained the test of time. So I will say it's quite interesting to see that the project has had to undertake such a big transition due to the vote of a DAO, because oftentimes, we've seen in the space, DAOs can be, if not utilized properly, ineffective. So to go through such a major change at the, result of the community is pretty interesting, especially at this point in a project's life cycle. So how do you guys manage the additional pressure that may come with some of these votes unexpectedly? Because I will say you guys have done obviously a phenomenal job. Like I said, the TVL you guys have, the volume and the total trade amount you guys have seen is phenomenal. But for me, it's just kind of the next step is, how do you sustain it, or how do you overcome the potential that you guys could be running well as a product or project, but some of the top holders or some of those individuals in the DAO may see a change or may feel a change is needed, and it affects the project for better or worse, right? Like that's always been kind of the issue with DAOs, is you never really know how it's going to roll out, and the fact that it's community driven does put the project sometimes in a bit of a tough spot.
That's such a good point, Maurice. And yeah, those exact pain points are some of the ones that we work through and we're facing. I mean, when you have 10 different service offerings like ApeSwap does, it's nearly impossible. Excuse me. It's nearly impossible to have all participants' interests exactly aligned. There's always somebody who wants us to focus a little bit more on lending. There's somebody who wants us to focus more on staking, somebody who says focus more on NFTs. So it can be challenging when there's so many different opinions in the community pulling and tugging in various ways. And ultimately, at the end of the day, what's proved most effective for ApeSwap DAO is communication. Like just talking these problems and these subject matters through with various people throughout the community. And eventually we're able to get to a point where everybody's swimming in the same direction, which is ultimately what's most important for us. Because if we have people trying to go every which way and we're unfocused, nothing's going to work. And generally, what arises from those conversations is a relatively straightforward, in my opinion, pecking order on what to focus on. Because if you're not able to focus on providing a really strong product, a really strong DEX, having a product market fit with treasury bills, you don't have as much traction and you don't have people wanting to work with you. And then all of a sudden it impacts other things. Like you don't have the ability to work with partners who are desirable and want to offer staking pools for your banana or G-Nano token, or you don't have the ability to do X, Y, and Z. So really, at the end of the day, being able to reconcile all of those different opinions via communication is what's served most effective for us. So we're pretty active in Telegram. We're pretty active in Discord. Before we ever put anything up for a governance vote, we have an open discussion thread on it. So usually throughout that process, opinions arise and we're able to chip away and figure out what the best direction is for the largest group of people and ultimately the DAO.
So is it all done now on a one-to-one voting system if you're holding GNANA? So what I mean is if you have, for example, I'll give two varying bag sizes. Say, for example, you're holding like $20,000 worth of ApeSwap versus $20,000 worth of GNANA versus like 5K worth of GNANA. Would you have 4 times the voting power if you're holding that 20K versus if you're holding the 5K? Or is it a one-to-one voting system, meaning that if you hold GNANA, as long as you're over X threshold, you get 1 vote in the system? Just curious to see how you guys handle the potential of that whale manipulation that always comes into question when we're talking about a DAO.
Yeah, absolutely. We have the approach where 1 GNANA represents 1 vote. So you would have, in your situation, you would have 4x the voting power as a 20,000 GNANA holder versus a 5,000 GNANA holder. So the more tokens you have, the more voting power you have, which, as you mentioned, obviously brings into question like whale circumstances or people who have enough capital to intend on manipulating the vote or controlling the vote in some regard. And luckily, and I don't know if you all are aware of bubble maps, but this is a very, very good reference. If you look at our banana or our GNANA bubble maps chart, we have a very, very, very even distribution across our tokens, and we're in a very decentralized spot, arguably too decentralized, where sometimes even our DAO doesn't have as much assets as we would like on hand in terms of banana to do market making activities or to do other things where we have to find a way to acquire more through various mechanics in the platform. So luckily, we're in a situation where we have a very egalitarian setup, and there's, at least it hasn't come into risk where there's a small cluster of people who have misaligned interests with the rest of the DAO who are able to manipulate the vote. That being said, I mean, we have had contentious debates and we have had contentious proposals being put up for vote in the past. But luckily, since we were a fair launch public project who's allowed people to interact over the past couple of years however they please, it's naturally shooken out into this very sort of flat organization.
Can I have a follow-up question on that, Maurice?
Yeah, go ahead, Mary. Sorry about that.
So if there is a big vote coming up and some people want to take a vote and have extra votes, can they like buy the GNANA right the day before, or do you have to be a holder for a longer period of time to be eligible to vote on those matters or questions?
You can buy it the day before, but that's where this 30% burn becomes so important, because if you want to have a higher position of authority in the voting hierarchy and more voting power, you need to be willing to over long term burn banana, put your money where your mouth is, make that vote, and then be willing to lose that value. It's not like you can acquire the token just for the sole purpose of the snapshot and then vote and then sell the token. Yeah, you have to gain. While that doesn't mitigate all circumstances, it's worked very well for us.
So you can't sell the GNANA token?
The GNANA itself does not have liquidity, but you can convert it back into 70% of the original banana that you had.
Yeah, right. You lose it. Okay, good. Okay, yeah. Sorry, Maurice. Go ahead.
No, that was a perfect follow-up question, Mary. Really well asked, and it kind of leads into another point I wanted to ask. For me is now on the actual appeal side of things, if there is a vote taken and something goes through, is there an amount of time where somebody could maybe gather signatures or pull together other members of the DAO and appeal a potential vote that went through?
We actually haven't accounted for that circumstance because we haven't had it arise. Every voting period is a several-day period, and every voting period we heavily publicize. So generally, we get a high enough degree of participation where people make a decision that's more or less final. The way our governance construct is written, though, if decisions can be reevaluated and have been reevaluated. About a year and a half ago, we proposed a hard cap, and the community voted against it. So we didn't implement the hard cap. And then a few months ago, so a year and a half later, the community was saying, okay, we should start to think about a hard cap again. We can't have an inflationary mechanic forever. So we sort of appealed that vote and offered another proposal, a different cut, taking more opinions into account for a hard cap, and that one went through. So we haven't appealed in the exact manner that you described, but we've had situations where decisions have been reevaluated as we've grown as a DAO and learned more things.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Obi.
Great. I like this question with the voting and everything. I think it's really interesting because how some people who has more funds can do more votes, but you could say maybe they want to harm the project and just buy to vote because they're from some other project or some other swap. But also, if you have lots of tokens, you want the best for that project also to succeed, right? So it goes a little bit hand in hand, but you never know. You can't really know who's voting with you, right, or not.
Exactly. It's such an interesting problem. I mean, I am fascinated by DeFi and governance. I think one of my favorite stories around it to show how, I mean, governance is just really hard, and even major protocols struggle with governance problems. I remember there for a while, Uniswap's governance, one of the most premier DeFi protocols and industry leaders, Uniswap, had this holding pattern where they had a quorum rule where they needed, I forget the specifics, but you can go back and look at their previous votes. But they had a rule where the quorum was like, you need at least 5% of all tokens in circulation to be voted to pass a governance proposal. And they couldn't get enough people to participate in governance, so they decided to lower the quorum threshold to like 2.5%. But because they couldn't get enough people to participate in governance, they couldn't get enough votes at that 5% rate to even lower the quorum threshold to where they were trying to go eventually. Yeah. So they were in this odd holding pattern where they had to really rally support and eventually get it passed. But I guess what I'm illustrating is like these governance woes are pervasive across the industry and a major, major challenge that so many protocols face.
I can't help but think it's a little bit similar to politics. I mean, you have to like go out there and try and find a way to find voters for your cause if you want to. I mean, absolutely. It's
or
similar,
campaign for your choice as well. Yeah.
Yeah, presidential campaigns and stuff. Yeah. Exactly. Anyway, we'll see. It's still young, right? If it works or not.
Yes.
I mean, lots of opinions. Every person have their own opinions. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Not easy. But can we talk a little bit about it? Because I like all these names, you know. So there's a feature called treasury bills that you have, right? And you have two types, banana bills and jungle bills. Can you talk about them? What are they?
Yeah, I'll hop in for that one. So the banana bills are bills that we're running with Banana. So as we're incentivizing our own pairs, so we could be incentivizing blue chip stable coins or Banana BNB liquidity with those. The jungle bills are, and this is how we kind of have the brand going for farms as well. The jungle bills are essentially when we have a partner set up that. So the reward is in the partner token, and typically it's incentivizing their liquidity. And the same goes for jungle farms versus banana farms. So we try to just keep kind of the same lingo to keep things simple. But essentially, banana means that, you know, we're using Banana to pay out and incentivizing those pairs, and jungle means that it's a partner pair.
Okay, cool. Nice. And you have NFTs also. Can you tell us about your NFTs, the NFT collection? Is there any utility? Actually, what do I need them for?
Yeah, no, great question. So actually the treasury bills are in the form of an NFT, and it's a vested NFT. So you get those NFTs vested over either 14 days, 30 days, or 90 days, meaning that those tokens are released linearly over that period of time. So if I, spend $100 on a 30-day bill, that's broken up into sections where I get paid back each day plus that additional amount. And then we also have obviously the other NFTs, but NFAs and NFBs, non-fungible apes and non-fungible bananas that were released actually quite a while ago now.
So what's the utility for those? Or what's the benefit for holding those? The bananas, I mean.
The NFAs and NFBs?
Uh-huh.
Obi, could you go into maybe a little detail on that if you don't mind?
Yeah, absolutely. So NFBs are pretty cut and dry. They were launched as just an artistic collection, do not have any sort of utility. NFAs have a bit of a longer history associated with them. They've gone through different eras of different versions of utility over time. Originally, it's been so long. So the way we sold them all is we had several different batches of rounds of sales to sort of invigorate the aftermarket. And then on the final round of sales, we did them in an auction house style. And we took 50% of all the proceeds from that auction house, used it to purchase banana, and then gave that banana out for staking those non-fungible apes. The goal was that the aftermarket would be lively enough so that it could continue taking the rewards from the aftermarket and put them into banana staking pools or NFA staking pools that earn banana tokens. The aftermarket and the NFT market, as everybody's aware, is not quite what it used to be. So it's changed slightly since, and those banana pools have been deprecated. And one of our team members, Sylfaster, is working to reinvigorate and revitalize a lot of the NFA community and give utility in different ways. So we're experimenting with a few different avenues, like different GameFi capabilities and different games. And then we also give a small airdrop to NFA holders at the end of every initial ape offering. So if you hold an NFA, for the vast majority of our initial ape offerings, you've been airdrop tokens. And occasionally partners want to do certain specific engagements with NFA holders because they're one of our most loyal and involved user bases in the community. So sometimes there's one-off benefits from certain engagements as well. But yeah, NFAs have had a very interesting history over time, and the utility of that has evolved as we've evolved as a DAO.
Great. I'm gonna let Maurice come in here, I think. I know you were up late, Maurice, researching, and I'm sure you have lots of questions.
So I want to kind of take a bit of a different spin. So sorry to transition the conversation a little bit, but I'm really curious now on a little bit more on the kind of outbound activities that the team has been so successful in over the run up you've had. And when I mean outbound, I mean like how you've been able to successfully scale your user base, and again, how you've been able to, I guess, how you identified which chains as well that you guys were going to be releasing on, and how that process would work to identify additional chains that you guys may look to expand to from either a liquidity providing or like a market making standpoint. Because I know right now you're on BNB, Ethereum, Polygon, and Thelos as your 4 networks that are available. So yeah, just trying to figure out, I guess I'll ask my first question, which is, how do you guys position yourself within different networks? Because what the reason for my question is, we started out as a BSC based channel here at Caesars, and as we've seen the transition to Ethereum happen, we've been very conscious of branching off and being more of a multi-chain focused channel. But that took a lot of time because the user base and the audience on ETH and BSC have extremely different kind of value points that they want to see, and very different buying mentality. So the reason I ask is, how do you guys position ApeSwap and your certain product features to, you know, somebody who's coming in from a BNB perspective versus somebody who's coming in on an Ethereum perspective versus somebody who's maybe a Poly-based user? Because every chain in theory has benefits and drawbacks, and often people trade on a specific chain for a reason. So how do you guys kind of get that positioning across the different chains? And then I have a follow-up question from there.
Yeah, Crimson, you want to take that, or you want me to run with it?
I can hop in.
Sure.
So, I mean, for the most part, we're kind of looking, we look to go places where, you know, our product suite can be useful and can be needed, and obviously where, you know, it'll be beneficial the most for our users. So there's, I mean, a lot of things that are taken into account, right? How much, you know, active users that chain has, what kind of the DEXs that they are currently working with are looking like, what kind of service offerings they have, and kind of how good of a fit we'd be there. And then obviously there's going to be, like, from a technical standpoint, this would be more of a Obi's position, but, you know, how much work that's going to be on the back end versus, you know, what we think that payoff's going to be. And I mean, lastly, like, you know, if how much that chain wants to work with us and how much they're planning to kind of incentivize our liquidity and help us get kickstarted on that chain. Because obviously when you move to a new ecosystem, it's definitely a huge benefit to be welcomed with open arms.
1,000%. And the reason I ask is, have you guys considered, if you guys decide to add additional chain functionality in the future, is that something that's strictly decided by the DAO vote, or will there be that percentage of a team aspect where you guys would maybe present a few chains that make sense as the next step, and then it would be voted on from a set list, or would it be more of an open style vote?
It's a mix of the two, actually. So if the community garners enough support to advise and vote upon any particular chain expansion, then we'll do it. But generally, the core team is not interested or motivated to expand to any given chain unless we have good reason to do so. And that good reason generally comes in the form of either direct support from the chain itself. For instance, on our Polygon migration, we were part of their incentives program, and we worked with their team directly, and they helped us launch and introduced us to partners. So from like a focus perspective and all the different things that we could potentially spend time on and generate a return on, if we have the buy-in of the chain itself, that goes a long way for us. And the core team is really motivated to make that transition and put a proposal for that. It can also look like having partners that are interested in launching various products on our chain. So let's say we were going to go to Phantom and we had 10 different partner protocols who wanted to launch treasury bills on Phantom. That would be motivation enough for us to go expand on any given chain. But really, at the end of the day, ApeSwap is a B2B2C protocol where we help bridge partners and we help bridge users and connect them on service offerings that are mutually beneficial for both of them. And if we don't have either part of that equation, it's hard to justify expanding to a specific chain. So long story short, if users really want us to go somewhere and vote upon it, then we go. Otherwise, the core team generally looks for our best opportunities, and we're very strategic about our cross-chain expansions.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I was just curious because obviously if you're talking about what like you guys do there and the aspect of liquidity, obviously AVAX is a chain potentially just based on their strength of the liquidity aspect might be a good potential fit in the future. So just curious to see, you know, how those expansionary talks would happen. And then I guess maybe walking through how long of a timeline was it for you guys when you went through that Polygon expansion?
Yeah. So regarding the first point, yeah, there's a lot of chains that are extraordinarily appealing, and our core team are firm believers that the future is cross-chain and multi-chain. So I envision ApeSwap being in a lot of different chains in the future. We just prioritize sort of one foot in front of the other and what makes sense for us at given circumstances. But by the end of the year, I mean, I expect us to be much further cross-chain than we currently are. So yeah, AVAX is on our radar. Phantom, Arbitrum, Optimism. There's so many good, strong, deeply liquid EVM compatible chains out there that are very interesting. And then in terms of your second question, what the Polygon expansion looked like, each cross-chain expansion has been a little different in nature. Polygon was definitely the one where we had quite a bit of support from the Polygon team themselves. And as part of the agreement, we took 10 of our BNB chain partners and migrated over to Polygon with them. So it was a multi-month, multi-partner effort going cross-chain. The actual technical work was a couple months to make it was our first expansion to make our user interface cross-chain compatible, deploy all the contracts, test everything, and go live. And then in terms of the user-facing launch, we had the rollout of lots of different services, offerings, new partners coming over, new ways to get engaged over a span of 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. I think you guys have, was it 238 or 268 partners or something like that? Really incredible.
That's all Crimson. He's the partner making machine.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's been fairly easy to make a lot of partnerships in this space. Our ecosystem has grown fairly naturally, and I think what it comes down to is, there's a lot of dexes, and I mean, at least go back, a year and a half. A lot of dexes and a lot of other projects didn't really have much of a presence on BizDev, and so it was really just a matter of reaching out and kind of being there to talk to people and being there to communicate with your ecosystem and helping out where we can. And obviously that just kind of evolves and snowballs. And, it's like, when you make friends, the more friends you make, the more you make on top of that. Like, we get referred to by a ton of our partners. And honestly, like, that's what I'm most grateful for. And that's the most fun part of the job. We get to connect to a ton of different projects. There's a huge diversity, people all over the world, all different, types of business. And, we get to kind of make those connections constantly. And as you can see, like now we have hundreds of partnerships in our ecosystem, and kind of we have a partner for everything. So you can only do so many things perfectly yourself. So the way we look at it is having a big ecosystem of partners now allows us to connect anyone to anything they need. So we're not going to do everything perfectly, right? So instead of us doing auditing, we have some auditor partners that if we have projects coming through, we can send them to them as a reference and kind of just help make those connections and make it an easy one-stop shop to kind of get anything you'd like.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, the term jack of all trades is something that comes up in life, and it's often looked at as a negative, and I kind of agree, because often what happens if you try and do too many things, you spread yourself thin and you're not able to focus on your core value, right? So awesome. I think that usage of partnerships for you guys has been really smart, and it also it's an easy way to organically get that cross exposure to different communities, right? So when you're talking about a marketing standpoint, it's a great tool to save on your budget and be able to get additional exposure. And often through a partnership perspective, you'll have some kind of an introductory call or, a chat with that community. So it really does give a more in-depth look at what you're doing and creates, more of an actual emotional connection, and builds up a formation to the brand versus just, another investment or a crypto project. So yeah, that's really, really smart.
I couldn't agree more. And the best part is as well, having that personal connection and having that individual relationship with each of our partners allows us to explore a lot of different options and not just have, a one size fits all partnership with every partner, which you do see a lot of places where, if a project has anything that can bring us value and we have anything that can bring us a value, that's a conversation we can have, and we can have that conversation in a meeting over Telegram, like in a very personal level, and kind of customize everything to a point where, each relationship with each different project that we work with is completely different. which just gives us a lot of agility to push forward and to kind of work with anyone in the space and to just kind of expand our repertoire as we expand our partnerships.
Awesome. So I wanted to, and again, I'm going to maybe transition the conversation here to something a little bit differently. So I do apologize, but you guys released some big updates. I think it was end of summer, early fall, with regards to some of the changes that occurred from a legislative standpoint in the United States. So I do want to address some of the stuff that occurred around that, because if you look at the website and read the breakdown of what ApeSwap is, one of the first product offerings that you guys read when you come across your product is yield farming, right? So the concept of yield within the United States has obviously really transitioned over the last 6 to 8 months with regards to it's now starting to be looked at as a security. So I know you guys had to implement some geo-blocking activities, within the United States and Canada. I think it was at the end of fall. I'm forgetting the official timeline, but I know I was reading through on the Twitter when you guys released that, and I was just curious to see, considering you guys do have a fairly strong user base in North America, what the impact has been on the yield farming side of your project with, the change in legislation and that geo-blocking have to go into place. So again, I apologize. I've really transitioned the conversation somewhere else, but I really did want to address this in the call because it was something I've been following for a while. And I just wanted to hear from the team how, those changes have actually impacted a live project.
So maybe a few clarifications, and definitely want to tread cautiously here without legal team, but we implemented OFAC restrictions as a result of the explicit guidance after the tornado cash bout. I mean, it had a broad chilling effect across the entire DeFi space at the end of the day. So we took that very seriously and reluctantly implemented all the sanctioned addresses and sanctioned countries on the OFAC list. Canada and North America in general, or the US, is not part of those lists, so they are not currently geofenced on our user interface. The portion that were geofenced was relatively small, so I don't think we've seen any direct yield farming impact as a result of that.
No, that's fantastic. And I'm really glad to hear that because I know I saw it come out and I think there's 12 parts or something to the release that you guys had back in the late fall, I think it was. But yeah, I appreciate you touching on that. And I don't want to go too far down the legal side, but I just was curious, how, if potentially at all, it impacted you guys, because I know there were some projects that unfortunately it did have quite a large impact on.
Absolutely. Yeah, I hear you loud and clear, especially on all the ambiguity, uncertainty, and lack of clear referential case studies on how to behave and how to act. So ApeSwap will definitely adapt as things come up and as bright line guidance is provided. But until that time, we're treading cautiously and consulting legal counsel as needed to have a good balance between being able to operate a DAO and being effective from a legal standpoint.
Amazing. I think that was a terrific answer. And I also think, with all the negativity and potential, impact some of these collapses have had recently and some of these legislation changes are having, if you continue again to show strong transparency, continue to stick and implement those guidelines so that you don't put your project in any potential risk in the future, I think again you're almost able to counteract that negativity and almost strengthen your position if done properly. So yeah, man, I really appreciate the answer. I apologize that I directly transitioned the conversation a bit away from where we were at regarding the DAO and the chain process, but I did want to ask because I know obviously it's a really hot button issue anywhere in North America, myself included. I mean, I'm in Canada here, and some of the policies and restrictions our government are putting into place are quite crazy. Like believe they put a 30K limit now on crypto investments in Canada. So you can only invest up to $30,000 through centralized exchanges unless you're in an area. Well, I mean, it impacts Ontario. It doesn't impact every province, but it's pretty interesting to think some of the changes they're putting in. And they're claiming like, oh, because FTX, collapsed and people were at risk and, people were over leveraged, we have to put these things into place to keep it safe. Well, it's like, when the stock market collapsed in 2008, 2009, and, people were left without their houses, losing their mortgages, you guys didn't change any of the regulations regarding the stock markets or the investment patterns. So I think it's very interesting to see how crypto is hit with a very different light. And I mean, I think it's just a very interesting conversation. I know you are one of the few projects who have openly addressed it in a very good manner, I think. So
it's definitely a fascinating landscape, and it'll be interesting to see how everything shakes out. But no, I hear you in terms of finding it very, very interesting, and appreciate the commentary.
Awesome. So, Mary, I'll throw back to you because I have kind of gotten into my little corner there and asked that one question. So.
Perfect timing. So, yeah, I wanted to ask about, because when you launched or came out on the market 2 years ago, almost now, there was not as many swaps as we have today, right? And you were maybe innovative and new thinking and things like that. But how is it now? Because as I see, there are swaps jumping up left and right now. There's so many swaps, and I know you're not only a swap, but how do you take on the future, and in the marketing aspect, how will you get more users, and how will you stay on top, and what's your ambition there? Do you want to be one of the biggest, or how do you think there?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. It seems like everyone and their mother is setting up some type of DEX or swap at this point.
Yeah.
I think that honestly, I think that a lot of them are going to be short-lived. I think people like to add a swap onto their project a lot of times, and sometimes it doesn't necessarily fit. And I think people don't realize how much work goes into running a successful full place to swap tokens, and gaining all those LPs. And so I mean, ultimately, I think that a lot of the projects that come in as a swap aren't really quote unquote a threat. But I mean, at the end of the day as well, like we were saying, we have a smart router and a bonus router, so we allow trading through other trading pairs on other dexes. So I mean, really, anywhere those dexes pop up, those tokens are going to be able to be traded here anyway. So that's for one. And I mean, ultimately, the only thing we can really do is try to be the best DEX and the best swap we can. So, looking after our users.
How will you do that? What's your niche? How will you what's your brand? I know you're apes. That's something maybe in this space anyway. But what else is there for you to get out there to the audience here today, and to the people, to why should I choose ApeSwap instead of PancakeSwap or some other swap?
No, I mean, great question. For one, for security's sake, we before we list any token, we have a DD process they go through. They need to be audited. We need to make sure there's no AP holders. We look at the tokenomics and whatnot. So from a security standpoint, we've actually never listed a token that was exploited, knock on wood. So it's like a safe place to come swap tokens. Yeah. So, I mean, that's obviously something we've always been excited about. But in terms of doing something exciting or fun, I mean, our treasury bills have been drawing in a lot of, new projects, and it's a great experience for users who, as of right now, many of the options are typically just standard liquidity mining through a farm. So you come stake your tokens. But I mean, obviously, because you have to deal with impermanent loss and some other issues, it's maybe not necessarily as good of a way to kind of make a return or yield on your tokens. So the treasury bills are a great way for our users to get a better yield on those tokens while supporting the project. And obviously they allow you to support the project as well. So those tokens are becoming, more stable. We take a very, very data-driven approach to everything we do. So before we list any token or work with a project, we run through their tokenomics, all their on-chain data of trading and volume and whatnot through our team of Dexonomics experts to make sure we're taking a very customized approach and making sure we're setting up that project for sustainability, working with them hand in hand. And so where we provide, one of the places we provide the most value is just being there to help projects, and then having the, service offerings or having the products to be able to back that up, where we have, the treasury bills, which allows you to have that sustainability. And then, when users come over to our DEX, they can trade any token. So it's a comfortable, easy place to trade. If you want to trade perpetuals or you can come use our pro trading platform. And it's just, the idea is, as a user, when you come over to ApeSwap, all your needs are met. And so you don't really have to leave. And as a project, when you come over to ApeSwap, it allows you to get a direct return, diversify your treasury, and start building up that liquidity in a much more sustainable manner.
Great. But is there, or have you thought about, if there's not, because when project lists with you, you take some kind of fee, I guess, and you make some revenue for the project. And how does that go back to the holders, or how does it go back, or to who does it go?
So traditionally, that looks like the form of a banana token buyback. We take 50% of all the revenue generated from our DEX, and we directly buy back banana tokens on the aftermarket to give it positive price support. But with the instantiation of our hard cap, this has been seen as a less necessary mechanic. So we're still taking that exact 50% amount of funds and giving it back to the holders, but using it for something more useful than just basically buying tokens and then throwing those tokens away and burning those tokens forever. What we're looking at implementing next, and this is coming in late Q1 or early Q2, is a new mechanic for our GNANA token that will allow people to tap into the revenue generated by the DEX. And as you're sort of getting at here, much more eloquently bridges the gap between the DEX generating revenue and the ability for token holders to tap into that revenue.
That's great. I like that, because many of the other swaps or DEX, they don't give anything back like that. They take it themselves, Maybe they do good things with them, but I like the idea that I buy your token and I support your DEX or your swap and everything that your stands about with that, and also I get something back just for holding the token. That's I like
exactly that. Yeah, it's a huge issue in crypto at large, where there's a bit of a gap or misalignment between various stakeholders, and a lot of times token holders don't see any upside or don't really have skin in the game for the DAO to perform well outside of speculation. So being able to more tangibly bridge that gap is something on our radar to start to roll out in the next few months.
Yeah, and I like that you do it with this golden banana token, because then you have to be a little bit more, you have to know a little bit more how to buy that, and you have to be a little bit more invested and around to help out, and you like the project, obviously, if you do that, if you change your banana to golden bananas, I guess. So yeah.
Exactly.
Great. So I saw that we have lots of people in here. They're raising their hands, and they're also already typed lots of questions in the space here. So maybe we should have some of the questions and answer them. What do you say? Did you have more questions, Maurice? I bet you have.
Yeah, no, I saw a couple good ones in there for sure. I was reading through a couple in the comments section actually already myself.
Oh yeah, do you want to choose
if you wanted, yeah, sure, I'll pick one. I did just have a quick question for the team. It's more of an open mic question, so just hoping you could talk to this for a bit, guys. But what would you say has been the biggest challenge since maybe the market has flipped, say last January, February is when it started to, again, it wasn't terrible, but you started to see it go down. Lunatera happened in May, and obviously, that caused a lot of issues in the space. And then it's been, seemingly one exchange after another, filing for bankruptcy or having some issues. So what's really been the challenge for you guys in that last, let's say 8 to 10 month time frame, as the market has shifted?
Yeah. So, from a biz dev perspective, one of the biggest issues has been urgency for projects. The way it seems to me is essentially every time the next, the next big thing breaks, everyone gets very, sensitive with their tokens. No one wants to move anything. No one wants to kind of list or set up any type of farming or staking or treasury bills, essentially. And so a lot of times deals, the biggest issue has been things have been kind of delayed and somewhat delayed indefinitely. So, initially off the bat, one of the biggest problems was we a lot of times will work with a project before they launch, so pre-IDO projects. And so as you guys, I'm sure, have seen, a lot of those IDOs have been pushed off indefinitely. It's pushed off for a week, and then it's pushed off for 2 weeks, and then a month, until that project was supposed to launch, and then 6 months later that actually hasn't happened. So a lot of it has been figuring out how to pivot around what's actually happening in the market and figuring out what's most important to focus on, because obviously in that scenario, right, if these projects are having that much trouble going to market, maybe either we have to help a better way to go to market, or work with projects that are already have their token launched so that they're able to move things. And that's been, I guess, the major thing that happens is things have been a little bit slow. There's been a lot of hesitation, and a lot of things get pushed back kind of consistently.
You know what? That's a phenomenal answer. And you kind of gave me a little bit of a segue. So Mary, maybe I'll just throw one more over, and then I've looked at a couple really good questions if you wanted to maybe throw a couple of those over to the guys afterwards. But my last question here is more so just about the trends now. This is a more of a future-oriented question. And, we've seen such a shift and such a, almost a spotlight put on AI and these bot-based technologies recently. So, how open, or what's the conversation been from the team about, how does ApeSwap start their growth or their transition into more of that AI-centric aspect that I think is really going to kind of work its way into the market? I don't know if it's going to be full AI trend moving forward, but I definitely think there's a place for it. So, just moving forward, when could we maybe expect our Ape AI bot or something like that would, again, give you guys more of a presence on some of these social channels? It's a great organic marketing tool, and it kind of fits that growth trend. And even outside of crypto, AI seems to be all the rage.
I love that question. And obviously, we've all been super excited by Chat GPT and all these other things. I think step one for integrating AI is literally just figuring out where you can use it in your own life to make your own self more efficient. So, for one thing would be, you can have an AI hop into a meeting with you and take all your meeting notes for you, and you can have it kind of consolidate those or refine those into something, more of an outline. So you have a way to do that where you're kind of saving time and you're able to interact better on a call because you don't have to take those notes. And there's tons of little things like that that are kind of like stepping stones to, let's see if we can use this technology to make ourselves as efficient as possible, and kind of save ourselves and buy ourselves as much extra time so that we can output as much as possible. And then from there, it's always just kind of keeping your ear to the street and seeing what AI product or what's going to be the next thing that actually is going to provide a lot of value to our users and will fit in really well with our service offering and kind of make sense to bring and not just kind of bring AI to have AI. Having AI as an actual use case that's going to bring a ton of value to our users.
No, and I mean, that makes sense. It has to be project appropriate and has to be from a timing perspective, the right fit. So it makes sense to me, but it's kind of definitely, it seems to be a growing trend. And I'll just speak to market caps. I mean, you guys are currently sitting around just under 12 million. We've seen these AI-based projects launch just with a concept or a theme of AI. And, some have run up, because of how much hype and how much attention it's getting in real media and the organic reach it's having. Some have run up over $10 million just off a launch with an AI based name. So, from a hype or from a cap perspective, which I know a big project like you guys doesn't focus on the cap, you're more focused on building, and over time, that if you do things right, you should be rewarded, right? The kind of the old business mentality. But being able to draw on some of that organic hype and that really avid, active community that exists in the space is never a bad thing, right? So yeah, I love the answer, and it'll be cool to see how you guys progress in that field. Sorry to eat up a little more time, Mary, if you wanted to transition to some questions. I did find a really good one in here from Erla Dave, if you wanted to maybe start with his. He had a question. Yep. So this one's from Elra Dave. His question is, you mentioned earlier about the transition you had from the inflationary token model to the deflationary model implementing Gnana. My question is, what triggered this transition? Was it more driven by the bear market or something the team was always looking at?
I'd say this is something that teams always looked at. I mean, there's plenty of textbook examples out there of whether it's federal governments managed currencies or cryptocurrencies that long-term high levels of inflation is simply just not sustainable. So from day one, we knew that was a necessary mechanic to have to get us bootstrapped and started and get tokens into people's hands, have attractive enough offerings to get people involved, all those sorts of things. But I think we had a hunch from day one even that this current economic situation is not necessarily going to work. We need to introduce burn mechanics to help with the deflationary side of things. And then we also need to introduce some mechanics like the hard cap to eventually stop inflation entirely.
Nice. Shall I read one?
Yeah, go for it.
I have one from Elon. I don't think it's Elon Musk. I say that a lot. Elon, regarding your security, how secured is this platform for users and their funds? How secured is your firewalls against hackers and scammers? Have you done any audit yet? And how can we access these audit credentials?
Great question. I love talking about security because it's literally the number one thing we focus on at ApeSwap. Without security, everything else falls apart, right? You can work so hard for years and years, and then because of one line of code on a smart contract being misappropriately placed, you have an exploit that wipes all of that hard work. So security is definitely one of our most important virtues and the thing we focus on most and put the most emphasis on. What that looks like from a tangible perspective is a lot of emphasis on testing and auditing at the smart contract layer. We never, ever, ever deploy smart contracts into production without adequate testing on our end and an independent third-party audit, usually in the form of our preferred auditor, Paladin. So, and that's really where security is most important and most vulnerabilities lie, is at that protocol and smart contract layer. Outside of that, obviously there are potential intrusions through the front end or our APIs or something like that, but we use pretty cut and dry operational security practices such as two-factor authentication on everybody who touches code, very strict permissioning rules around who's allowed to push things into production and so forth. And then finally, in terms of actual funds and financial management, anything that is DAO funds is held in a multi-signature wallet. And then all the holders of those multi-sig accounts have hardware wallets. So we have multiple degrees of security there. and several people would have to be physically compromised at the same time to have an exploit at that level. So it's definitely something we've thought about a lot and put plenty of emphasis on to make sure all the apes are safe.
Very good. I have one here from Jay. Delays in transactions, low liquidity, a lack of cross-chain trading, a complex user interface, and a lack of stop limit functionality are currently problems with swaps and DEX. How do you handle these issues in your protocol?
Oh man, that was a lot. Should we go one by one? Could you give me the first
do you have
few?
any delays in your transactions?
Or
how do you handle that?
We just launched on Telos, which is the fastest EVM compatible chain that I've ever utilized. It's actually I've never waited for a transaction on the Block Explorer. It's so quick that MetaMask can't even process or keep up with transactions as fast as the actual blockchain is going. So
is that why you choose Telos to be one of the?
It was a big reason. They're just like their throughput and technical capabilities of that blockchain. But it also eventually roots back to being good partners with the Telos Foundation themselves and going to market together with them. Those initial drivers that I brought up earlier in the conversation around why we make cross-chain moves, those were very present on that particular move.
That's cool. You should tell them to come here, Obi. We'd like to know more about Telos, because this is the second time I hear about them from a big project.
They're a great group. Group.
All right, let's move on. Low liquidity. Is that something you have problems with?
We mitigate that, one, through incentivizing liquidity, and two, through that smart router that we were talking about. So even if we don't have liquidity or we have low liquidity for a pair, we can push it through any other DEX that does have liquidity.
Okay. Lack of cross-chain trading.
I guess for ourselves, we're on 4 different chains, and as mentioned earlier, aiming to go further cross-chain. And then we work with a partner, Multi-Chain, who's our bridge provider, and they're very fantastic about enabling cross-chain swaps and functionality. So that's cool. Generally how we mitigate that one.
And a complex user interface. Is it simple to use your?
We try to make it as simple as possible. I think just crypto in general has a long way to go, even down to the individual wallet level. So there are some things that are just outside of our control, but we do have a full-time design team that works on building the user interfaces so that we can implement things that are the most user-friendly possible.
And lack of stop limit functionality. Do you have that on your?
We have limit orders and stop losses on both our BNB chain DEX and on our Pro trading platform.
That's cool. All right. I think that was it for the questions from the audience. I think Maurice dropped off, or he disappeared, I think. Where is he? Oh, I'm inviting you back, Maurice. Anyway, time flies. We have been here 1.5 hours already. I can stay another 20 minutes and I have to go. So we can talk a little bit more if you want about certain things. Maybe there is something that we haven't touched upon. Maybe your roadmap, what's coming ahead. Is there something you can reveal for us that's people don't really know yet, or something from the future?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of where a lot of our emphasis is at right now, is sort of where we started the conversation on treasury bills and our bonding protocol being a huge emphasis of ApeSwap as a whole. It's something we've seen a lot of product market fit on, to the point where we actually can't keep up with the appetite of users to buy more treasury bills. The current bottleneck is having enough partners who want to participate in the program. And it's not like we haven't had very many partners go through. Like Crimson said, we've had 30 plus. So that's becoming a huge emphasis of ApeSwap. And as we learn more about liquidity circumstances And as we get more proficient in those sorts of things, becoming a sort of expert at liquidity and liquidity health is very much on our radar and very much something that we're going to be emphasizing over time. We actually have our own standard, our own EIP 5725 that's currently going through the Ethereum core developers review to be potentially made like an actual standard, something like ERC 721 or ERC 20, this common vernacular you hear. So we're really putting a lot of emphasis and resources into being experts, credentialers, and just general providers of liquidity health, because we think the liquidity rental problem has just gotten too bad over time in DeFi.
Yeah. All right. Maurice, you dropped off. You're back.
Yeah, I was having some sound issues there. I don't know what was going on, but I am back. So I've been just following along, and
No worries.
for me, like I love how you mentioned that people are just, you can't keep up with the demand on the treasury bill side. So like that's, obviously showing a high, value for your product. A lot of the times the issue in crypto is people create something and it falls on deaf ears. And, that's obviously an issue, because then you really have to start to overspend on your marketing. And, sometimes that doesn't result in the actual, desired kind of like subscription, I guess, to what you're putting out there. So I will say, it's really nice when your products are in such high demand that you're able to, I guess, from a sales perspective, somewhat forecast or predict, how much inbound or revenue you guys are generating, the types of partnerships you're going to be able to create. So yeah, like, I mean, I love that you guys have so many different aspects going forward for you. Development wise now, is there anything outside of obviously the migration that's starting on the 26th that's really at the forefront maybe next month or two?
Yeah, as always, we're staying extraordinarily busy on the development side of things. We're launching a new standard of our bills, which is going to come out late this month. So we're planning on pushing out that EIP I talked about and transitioning all of our bills to that new one. We're looking at ways to help us become a reputable credential provider and liquidity health. This might look something like a dashboard where people can explore their different types of liquidity and understand a certain tokens ranking and where it might fall. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we're starting to work on these additional GNANA mechanics that help better connect the revenue that the DEX generates to what the actual holders of the tokens have.
Very nice.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a huge fan of what you guys are doing there. I know we have a few community members at Caesars who are quite big into ApeSwap. One of my closest community members actually has you guys in his name on Twitter, and I think he's listening in the audience right now. So I know we have a few community members who are quite large and understand what you're doing. And when I mentioned that we're going to jump in and co-host with you today, they're like, man, that's incredible. Like, this team has just been so undervalued. That was their exact words, that you guys are such an undervalued product in the space and that the team has just consistently delivered. But, considering the market, it hasn't really gotten some of the recognition it may have if we're in the peak of a bull. So team wise, I do want to go a little bit into the team. How many? I think there's about 15 if I'm not mistaken, but what's the kind of breakdown of your resources within the team?
We've actually grown to 30 plus members at this point in time. So we have 30 plus core team members that are split. We call them sub DAOs. They're, I guess the TradFi equivalent would be business verticals. And then we have an additional wonderful 20 global community administrators across various regions and countries who help us manage our vast community. So in terms of the sub-DAO breakdown, we have product and development, which is obviously responsible for the development of all our offerings. We have business development, which is responsible for working with partners, finding leads, getting them involved in the various ApeSwap offerings. We have marketing, and then we have this sort of administrative and HR and finance sub-DAO as well. They're all about 8 to 10 members each, with the administrative sub-DAO being smaller at like 3 members, I think.
Terrific. So, I mean, you've more than doubled in size then since you came into the market in 2021.
That's great. So are they working full-time, I mean?
Yeah, everybody on the team except 1 or 2 are full-time team members.
Nice. That's great. Yeah, I'm intrigued to look in more to this. And if I want to buy some bananas, where do I go? Where's the best place to buy me some bananas?
ApeSwap.finance. There's a big Ape In button on the homepage, or you can go directly to apeswap.finance/swap, and banana will be preloaded as the output token.
Great. And I can use Telos, Matic, BNB, or Ethereum, right?
Yeah, any of those chains. And due to how our DEX routes, you can have basically any input token across those chains. So if you have stable coins, those will work. If you have BNB, that works. If you have some random token, there's a high likelihood that will work as well.
That's great. Cool. So no financial advice, guys, but bananas up for sale on the ApeSwap.
Exactly.
Hope they're not too green, though. I need my bananas to be yellow.
Right, banana.
Golden bananas.
Golden bananas.
Even better.
Anyway, guys, it was a pleasure hosting you and having you on here at Crypto Miners. And thank you so much, Maurice, also from Caesar's Calls. That I love having you up here as a co-host now and then. I would like to give you the floor, OB and Crimson, for some closing statement, and maybe there's something that we missed that you want to tell the audience before we try and wrap it up here, so I can go to my next meeting in 15 minutes.
Yeah, I got the same game plan for after this. I honestly appreciate having you guys have us. It's been super fun. Anytime we want to do this again, please. This was great. I mean, the questions are great. It's been fun to chat. And honestly, the only thing I would leave the audience with, or everyone here, is just go check out ApeSwap. Go check out our treasury bills. If you do any type of yield farming right now, you'll find that this is a much easier way to get a return. There's no there's a lot less calculation.
Hello. Oh, you're calling too. Sorry. Crimson. I thought you and me, Crimson, had to go. Still connecting. Now you can speak, Crimson. So sorry about that. That was so stupid. Right in the middle of the great ending of a great session. Oh well.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think most of the important stuff got communicated throughout. So
yeah.
I always end up with some type of issue on my spaces. So maybe it's me.
No, it wasn't you. I think it was bad connection from the hosting, from the host, not from me, but from the space itself. I don't know. It happens sometimes, and it's I hate it when it happens. But yeah, we had fun.
No, we had a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I was saying, I'd love to do this any time again, and maybe if we want to go the other direction or something. But it's great to be able to connect to your community.
Yeah, you're welcome back soon again. Let's do it again, and we can start with the ending then, so we don't skip it.
No, that's exactly the play. There we go. It's continuous now. It's perpetual. It never ends.
Yeah. Now we can't end. People are joining. This is just the end, guys. This is the end. No. But yeah, I wanted to thank you, and I wanted you to have a closure, of course. So sorry you didn't get
No,
that.
no, thank you so much. And all I wanted to say is kind of like a final couple words. It's just go to ApeSwap, go to our Treasury Bills page, and go check it out. It's a great way to earn yield on your tokens. It's a great way to start getting that return. It's a great way to support projects, and I think it's a better user experience. And then when you're there, you can trade any token you want. So if you see it, you can potentially earn arbitrage trades on tokens that are trading on another DEX as well. So it's a great way to kind of earn more money. And I mean, I think of it as like the best user experience we can have. So I would love for just anyone to go check it out and see what you guys think. And also, if anyone wants to get connected, or if anyone has a project that they are close in the community with that they think would be beneficial to get set up with Treasury Bills, feel free to reach out to me here. You can reach out to me on Telegram, anyone on the team as well, and we're happy to kind of get in conversation with the project.
Sounds great. And Crimson,
Yeah,
I
definitely be in
was
touch.
trying to send you a message, but I couldn't. I don't know why. Didn't work.
Oh, it doesn't let you?
Nope. Maybe you're a secret person. I don't know. So Maurice is back too. Maurice.
Not on purpose.
Did you also want to say some closing words? I have to
No,
go
I just
in 2
wanted
minutes, but
to pop in and say thank you again to you, Alpha, the team here, Wolverine, and everybody at Crypto Miners for jumping in and allowing our community at Caesars to come and hang out. Obviously, we're a big fan of apes. My profile picture, if you talk about which monkey are you, I'm an orangutan. I'm Maurice in the movie. We got Caesar, the main ape. We got myself, and then we got my coordinator Buck, who's a gorilla. So yeah, we're a couple of apes hanging out on our channel, and it's really cool getting to like spend some time with ApeSwap. A lot of, again, I think your name came from the similar origin point of where Caesar came with his. Apes, aping, the terminology used in this space, it's quite on brand. So yeah, loved hanging out with you, man, and I'll definitely, hopefully we can be in touch and host a few more of these things in the future.
Hey, I share all the same sentiment. Love to meet up with more apes in the space. It's always fun. And yeah, no, I'd love to. I mean, it was a great space. I'd love to hop on again at some point in the future. And yeah, like my door's always open. Apparently, maybe my DMs aren't, so let me fix that. But
yeah, fix that.
But anyone who wants to reach out, please feel free. We can hop on a call. We can discuss. If you guys have questions, send them my way. Always happy to kind of help educate, help get projects involved, and just be here to network or talk to people, whatever helps.
Oh, I forgot the most important question, Crimson. And now Obi's not here. But what do you put on your pizza? Do you like pineapple on your pizza?
Oh! No, are you asking if that's my favorite topping, or are you asking if that's something that I can eat? I will have on my pizza, because I'm not.
Answer how you want.
I don't. This is oof. You're putting me in a weird spot here.
Maybe you won't have same friends after this AMA as you had before, Depending on your answer.
I actually, believe it or not, I don't mind pineapple pizza. Pineapple, like the Hawaiian style, I'll eat it.
Nice.
It's not my go-to style, but I don't hate it.
You wouldn't say no if you were hungry.
Exactly. What about yourself?
No, I can eat it. I don't mind.
Right on. We got two of us.
I think Maurice is the same, right?
I've had it when I was younger. As I've gotten older, I've kind of moved away. I'm more of like a